Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret identity to the masses?
Hi, I'm Andrew Love.
I don't remember you being quite that evil in any of the shows I've
No.
seen you in. But maybe I haven't seen the whole catalog.
Yeah.
But no, thank you for coming on to the show today. We're very excited to have you on. And, obviously we have to get the basics out of the way. So we have to discover your origin story. So,
Okay.
how did you get involved in acting?
I've been acting pretty much all my life. I started in school, doing the school plays. I went to private school for a couple of years, and each grade consisted of about like 12 to 13 students. And we would have assembly in the morning, and each grade had their own kind of production, or they'd either read like current events, or they'd talk about like the explorers, or just something that you had to do in front of a large group of people. uh, and I did that for a couple of years and just got comfortable, and I really enjoyed performing. And so I continued in junior high and high school, and then I went to Waco. There's a community college there called McLennan, and they have a really good 2-year program. And I did that, and then transferred to the University of Houston. And while I was at the University of Houston, there was a fellow actor in the program who was working for ADV, which is no longer in existence, which is one of the older uh, production companies of anime, for those of you who don't know. And he was working with the director, and the director needed more male voices, and so he gave him a list of the some of the theater majors, and I was on the list, and I went in and I auditioned for Gilgamesh, which was my first anime, and I think I want to say the character's name was Tatsuya. Tats I can't. I am really really bad at pronouncing Japanese names, which is terrible. It's so hard to do um, in the booth, but we practice that. Anyways, so I auditioned for Stephen Foster. That was my first audition. He immediately uh, took me over to Scott McLennan, who was another director there at the time, and introduced me because I had a deeper range. And I have been working there for almost 10 years now. It's since changed from ADV Films to Seraphim and Sentai, and I've done a couple of things up at Funimation, which is also in Texas. Uh,
No, I'm really surprised because I thought I would never say this because I'm used to making my guests feel old because I'm
huh?
22. But you said, for the people who don't know what ADV is, and I'm like, oh gosh, there are people now out there who might not know what ADV is.
Yeah, it's been gone now for like 6 years, 5, 6 years, I think.
Yeah, 5, 6 years sounds about right. Because I remember, I think the news hit around Anime Vegas 2009, 2010,
Hmm.
somewhere in there. I think it was 2009. And I remember asking probably a panel of voice actors that had very little connection with the company whatsoever, but asking their opinions on it just out of curiosity, and I probably made them feel uncomfortable. But I will remember that. Uh, but yeah, it's sort of hard to realize that the entrance to anime is usually younger kids, at least if the conventions lead me to believe,
Hmm.
that because they just happen to get younger and younger, it feels. And so yeah, it's really hard to believe that a lot of people might not know what ADV is nowadays. That is like kind of a hit to the heart.
Well, there's been a couple of really large companies that are no longer around. Isn't I want to say maybe Genion
Yeah,
was.
Genion's not active anymore. They used to be Pioneer, and now Bandai isn't actually doing any English releases anymore as well.
Yeah.
So,
Um, there's I know Seraphim and Sentai and Funimation, and then Bang Zoom. I think that's based out of LA. But some of the bigger companies that were, hard hitters are no longer around. And I would like to say, or I would not like to say, I think that it is because of the internet. And I appreciate people that listen, or not listen, but that watch dubs. But the only way that we can continue to do it is if you actually purchase it, or purchase a subscription with a company that you're actually paying to do it, instead of downloading it for free. Because when you download it for free, it makes it harder for us to do the actual titles, to buy the titles from Japan and do them. And even if they're not dubbed, if they're just subtitled, it's still difficult if people are downloading them. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on a soapbox, but
Oh
that's
no, I don't mind. I always find this to be an interesting conversation because obviously as a consumer, I have my own opinions, but I do feel
right.
like the introduction of the internet changed so much in how anime companies or companies licensing these shows have to market and have to deal with them because, simulcasting isn't a thing you find for British shows,
Right.
with things like that. So for these companies to make the leap to be able to adapt when a lot of people out there are trying to get around the system, I think is remarkable and how short of a time it's happened. Some not fast enough, which is sad to say, but
Yeah, I think that uh, hmm. I just it's difficult because I read comics. Like, I'm a huge comic book fan. I love Marvel and I love DC. Although Marvel right now, it's not really grabbing me. I'm reading more DC and some independents, and it's hard. And I equate this to anime. It's hard to know what you're going to enjoy, and it's much more difficult, I think, for anime fans, because when you take the leap to buy a series, you're spending a pretty good amount of money to purchase that series. And if you don't like it, then you're kind of stuck with it. And without anime stores, like, they're very few around, because it isn't as big of a um, culture yet. I would say like comic books or like Star Wars, Star Trek. There are lots and lots of anime cons, but I don't think it's as mainstream as some of those other genres. And because of that, it drives the prices up on the actual shows themselves. So it's really difficult to know what you're going to like without doing a lot of research.
yeah, and then there's other things to consider too, like, and I might anger some people listening by saying this, but as a consumer, I will not purchase a series if it doesn't have a dub. I'm not saying I go out and I steal it. I'm just
Uh
saying
huh.
I will literally just pass on it because if I have a company over here that I can give $30 to and it's another series I was looking at and it offers a dub and a subtitled version, why would I go for the just subtitled version? Like I've never had the conflict where it's like, but I really want to watch the series. It's literally almost immediately, well, it doesn't have a dub, so instead I'm gonna go for this one. This is where my anime allowance is going this month.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Do you prefer to watch the dubs as opposed to subtitled?
It depends on the genre of show, but I do like having the option. For example, if the show is a slice of life, I'm
Hmm.
usually more in tune with watching it in Japanese because sometimes some of the desus and ugus just don't really work the same way.
Right.
But if you take a show like, say, Tiger and Bunny or something that's very kind of Americanized or Space Dandy or something along those lines, I just can't not watch it dubbed. Like, it's so perfect for a dub, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's something that I try not to read reviews. It's really difficult because I am curious to know what people think of certain shows, and it's a really, I mean, it's kind of like a Pandora's box. What comes out is if you don't pay attention to it, then you don't know. But if you go looking for it, it can be good and it can be bad, and that's a fine line to walk. Um, but it's always really interesting to hear what people say, their views on whether it should be subtitled or dubbed. Um, I hear that some people don't like subtitles because of you're missing stuff in the show, certain nuances in the animation. But I can also understand wanting to watch it and the kind of language that it was originally put in. Like, I'm a huge fan of Kurosawa. Huge fan of Kurosawa. I don't even know if they have dubs of his movies, but I kind of don't want to watch them because I love Toshiro Mifune so much that I want to hear his voice.
Well, actually, I can relate this to one of your works. You
Okay.
play Hajikata or Hijikata, and I'm gonna say it wrong, Hakukai or Hokokai. I played the visual novel version, and none of it's dubbed. And I played that first before I watched any of the series. So I was so disappointed playing through it because I was like, all these guys are awesome and hot, and I can date them, but they're kind of wooing me in a language that I don't understand.
Right, right, right,
So it didn't have the same impact if it was dubbed.
right.
And I think that relates to the point a lot, definitely, because different genres just do better in, emerging or not emerging, but immersing a person into the media.
Yeah, I watched this movie. This has been years ago because I got it at Blockbuster Video, and they don't really exist. There's like maybe one or two still in Houston, um, which is a crazy thing to think about video stores because I grew up with video stores, and I mean video stores, not DVDs like VHS. Um, and that used to be a really cool thing to go to the video stores and pick stuff up. But I picked up this DVD called Versus, and it was a Japanese film about inmates that get out into this like enchanted forest that was also a gateway to hell. And I watched it. I watched it dubbed first, and I was like, "Man, this is kind of hokey," but I really, really like it. And then I watched it subtitled, and it was completely different, like radically different. It brought a kind of sincerity to the film. Whereas I just think it was bad casting, or just they tried to Americanize it too much when they did the dub, which that's another fine line that you have to walk with the script writers and the directors for the shows. I mean, it either lands or it doesn't, but it's difficult because the language is so radically different. There are things that are in Japanese that just aren't. We don't have anything to explain it. It could be one word that means an entire sentence, and it's just really difficult to try and incorporate what they're trying to say in the English language and the amount of time that they've given us in the animation.
Oh, definitely. It's kind of like the show and the, girl game I mentioned, the visual novel game. If
Hmm.
you try and westernize it, it's not going to work out well. It's about the Shinsegumi, it's about samurais, it's about obviously, that era in Japan. So if you westernize it and you make it about McDonald's and
Yeah,
hamburgers, it's just not going to work.
not gonna work.
So I do like when games or media or anime or what have you just have the option to do either or, because some days you might be feeling in a Japanese mood, some days you might be feeling in more of a, English mood. It depends on the person, depends on the situation, and I think just depends on the genre. So, I like having that choice as a consumer.
I agree.
And now for the listeners out there, they were actually bugging me to ask you about one specific role of your
Okay.
character in One Piece, um, Kumadora, I believe it is,
Uh huh.
because he's kind of weird.
Yeah, yeah. That was that was something that Mike McFarland, who was the director on that, was like, this guy's a little out there. And when I was looking at him, as I said, I'm a huge fan of comics. Uh, I wanted, I guess, in my mind. Now, I'm not saying that I'm aping him or trying to copy him, but kind of the vein of Mark Hamill's The Joker, where it's like it can be like really up high and then turn to a very deep and then also, and I think this is the same character, the guy that says "yo yo" all the time. He's really, really dramatic, and that it was just a lot of fun to play.
Well, it was funny because I don't watch One Piece because I have very a lot just not enough time to be like, okay, there's 500 episodes.
Yeah, right.
Let's see here. So I have Chris for that stuff. I'm like, okay, Chris, what's the latest on One Piece? What's the latest on Bleach or Naruto or whichever is the latest shonen show? So he was, showing me about the character and things like that, and I'm like, this looks like a kabuki actor.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's what he's really based on. And it was, yeah, it was he's because he's kind of based in that vein of kabuki. He's incredibly dramatic, like way over the top, and and sometimes kind of fey about it, but it was a lot of fun to play.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that would have been more fun than say someone who's very stoic and, stern. And here you get to, play with your voice a little bit and kind of find out more interesting things about it as you're in the booth.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too. A lot of people have a misconception that uh, when you go in, you're doing a lot of random voices, you're using a lot of range. But for the most part, and maybe, that's not to say everybody's like this, but for my experience, they really want me to stay pretty close to how I speak. Um, Maybe a little softer, maybe a little gruffer, but it's not often that I go and do something like Kumadori, where he's really over the top. For the most part, I stick pretty natural to how I speak, and because I get approached a lot about how do you get into the business. I do crazy voices, and then they'll do a crazy voice for me, and I'm like, oh, that's great. But it's it's not always like that. For the most part, it's just my normal speaking voice.
Yeah, and then you also have to keep in mind, especially for the people who are asking, "Hey, I can do this and I can do that." Well, that's cool for animation and, stage work, but what about commercial work and things like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. And if anybody is looking to get into voice acting, my suggestion is to now. Not everybody has to have actor training. There are exceptions out there that just they get it. They're just natural. But I think for the majority of people, it is good to have some type of training, just to kind of get used to the process. And if you ever wanted to like see what it's like to be a voice actor, you could get like if you have GarageBand at home, you can put in an anime on your computer and like write out the subtitled lines, and then play it with headphones on and record your voice trying to say the lines as they're doing it in GarageBand, and then try and sync them up. That is kind of the equivalent of what we do on a very, very base level. But if that's something that you are interested in, that's a way to kind of get an idea of what it's like, because a lot of the times we don't have a whole lot of heads up about characters. If we're lucky to get uh, enough time, we can watch it on certain sites, or they'll give us uh, some of the episodes to kind of get the character. But for the most part, I would say a lot of it is cold reading, where you go in and as you're recording it, it's the first time for you to see the actual script, and so it's a lot of up on your feet, uh, and sometimes that can be really, really beneficial, and sometimes I think the work can suffer a little bit, but it's a really quick process.
And also for the Windows users out there, feel free to grab Audacity. It's free. A lot of us use it too. Because I'm pretty sure GarageBand is strictly Mac.
Yeah, yeah. I just outed myself as a Mac person.
Curse you! No, I can understand. It's actually really funny when we get people on staff who have Macs because for whatever reason they have this volume control issue a lot of the times, and then our DJ software goes nuts. So that's always a nice, fun thing to work with.
Oops.
Whoopsie daisy. So Macs aren't my favorite, but it's okay. You're a good guest. You can stay. It's okay.
Oh, thank you.
But for the listeners out there, we're going to take a short break, so keep it tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't. And our special guest isn't going anywhere unless we chase him away, which is a possibility. Hey, everybody out there, you're still tuned to 91.8 The Fan, and my special guest is still here and breathing.
Hello.
Yep, that sounds like air. See, we didn't hurt him. He's fine. completely fine. The guests don't know, or I'm sorry, the guests don't know that our IRC, which is our live chat,
Uh
um,
huh.
basically they make assumptions as to what I'm doing to people on break. So
Uh
oftentimes it's usually that I'm beating them into submission or something along
huh.
those lines. So I just like to clarify, I'm not trying to hurt anybody.
No, no, that's what she told me to say.
Okay, now he's gonna do it. I
Yeah.
see how it is. No
No,
cookie for you.
no.
But for the listeners out there, are there any projects you want to pimp and promote to them? Anything that they need to watch that you're in?
I recently finished. I mean, it just came out. I finished it a while ago, but Batum with an extra O, so that's three O's and an exclamation point. I really like this show. It's a little grisly. It's a little violent, but it's basically like Lost and Battle Royale and a video game all kind of combined together. And it was a character that it's another character that's not usually in my vocal range. And when you first see him, he farts, and it was really funny to watch it. They did a premiere here in Houston, and to be in a theater listening to your voice with a bunch of fans, it's terrifying and exciting. But it was really funny for that initial part to happen when he farted and everybody laughed. And I was like, okay, people are gonna like this.
You know a character is going to be a good one when that's their introduction.
Yeah, yeah. And the great thing is that he's got kind of a good turn. Uh, you know, most of the people in the show, you're not really sure who they are, what they represent. Can you trust them? And I mean, that kind of continues throughout the series. And I really liked the character. His name's Tyra, and and he's got a really great story.
I've heard a lot of good things about that show. I have not seen it myself, sadly. I have seen another work that you were announced in, I believe, a few months ago called Say I Love You. I
Uh
saw
huh.
that subtitled on Crunchyroll.
Hmm.
So that'll be interesting to see the dubbed version of that, especially because your character was one of my favorites.
Okay.
Well, because he wasn't a jerk. Like a lot of people on that show, they were so like wrapped up in their like high school drama. I was like, I want to beat some of these characters.
Well, it's funny because my wife plays the model,
Hmm.
and in the
Oh yeah,
end,
she's kind of mean.
yeah, she's really mean, and in the end, there's a nice little moment between our two characters, and that's always exciting when we get to work on a show together and then interact with each other.
Yeah, it seemed implied, I guess spoilers, that they might get together. Uh,
Hmm.
so, hey, real life chemistry, it
Yeah,
probably produces on-screen chemistry as well.
yeah, and you know the other thing is that when we record, it's not like Disney or Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network where you could potentially have everybody in the cast or at least more than one person in the room recording at a time.
Mhm.
You you are the only one recording, and if you're recording first on a show, then you're the only English voice. If you record last, then you have all of the other cast around you to play off of. And sometimes when Emily and I are in a show, depending on who goes first, we'll leave a joke um, in the recording that the engineers will throw up and surprise the other. And it's all it's always really fun. She usually gets me pretty good.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
See, those are the kind of bloopers that people should release. I think people
yeah,
would eat those up. They might not be appropriate jokes, but I still think people would
right.
love them. Are there any other projects you want the listeners to know about? Anything we haven't touched upon?
Uh, I One of my personal favorites is Kids on the Slope. Um, I really love jazz, and it's a slice of life. It's set in the '60s in Japan, and it's about some kids that one guy is kind of rough. That's who I play. I normally play rough guys or wrestlers or bad guys. Um, and there's a new kid in school, and he's kind of awkward, and they kind of strike up a friendship through music. and I really enjoy the show. And it's made by the same guys who did Cowboy Bebop. Um, some people think I'm a little deep for high school, and I can understand that, but it's still one of my favorite shows that I've ever worked on.
I remember seeing that on Crunchyroll as well, and I remember absolutely loving it. And I believe it's premiering on Neon Alley soon.
Oh, cool.
I believe we got the email notification about that. So if people haven't gotten a chance to watch it, I highly recommend it. It is pretty amazing. And now don't let slice of life scare you because I know some people were like, I don't want to watch Moe BS, but it doesn't have anything to do with Moe anything.
What does that mean?
Moe is like like cute girl, like oh,
Ah, okay.
like
Yeah.
sparkly eyes and panty
Yeah,
shots
yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that's yeah, it's not like that. In fact, there might only be one or two uh kind of what you would call like nightmare scenes where like a character's like, "Oh, I'm mortified. I can't believe this." But really it's pretty straightforward, honest
mhm.
animation.
It's a very feel good sort of show. Like I really recommend people seeing it. It's very good. And now for the listeners who want to, stalk you in a nice way on the
Uh-huh.
internet, are there any places they can do that and keep up to date with your work?
I just started an actor page on Facebook, and it should be Andrew Love, voice actor, or just Andrew Love. My wife helped me set it up because I'm not that tech savvy. And then if you're interested, as I said, I love comic books. I occasionally co-host a podcast called Stacks of Comics, and that's on Tumblr and iTunes and a couple of other places. And if you're curious about some of the roles that I've done, you can check out IMDb or behindthevoiceactors.com. And if you really want to get to know me, one of my passions also is action figures. And I have a Tumblr that I take pictures of action figures. It's called Lights, Camera, actionfigures.tumblr.com.
I need to find that because I am the action figure collector of the website.
Oh, really?
I'm getting ready to move, and it took me a week to do a deep cleaning of all my figures because I keep all the boxes, bring all the boxes from the closet down, put
Oh,
them,
yeah.
dry them off, put them in the respective box, and then somehow
Mhm.
Tetris them all in this gigantic box together. And I somehow did it. Like I didn't know it was possible because I have a bowl chair in my room, and I put every single box in the bowl chair, and it was literally almost going to my fan at the top.
Whoa.
So yeah, I've been collecting for about 7 years. That's one of my hobbies, so I need to
What
find
type
that.
what type of figures do you collect?
Usually anime or video game figures. I
Okay.
prefer PVC figures over posable figures. I know play arts and Figmas are super popular nowadays, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I like seeing some amazing, like dramatic and detailed pose, and then keeping them in that pose because I feel
Yeah.
like I never get it right when I pose them myself.
Yeah, and the sometimes the posables, they're not designed well enough to pose, and they end up posing, but it's like in a real awkward stance. And
hmm That or the
or
joints can look weird.
yeah, yeah. That's I do that sometimes in the pictures. I'll have to like go in and take out some of the lines of the joints because I can't stand seeing them.
I actually had all my figures got into their boxes. All of them were fine except one. And it was a Play Arts figure by Square Enix. I don't know if you're familiar with the type of ones they do, but for the Final Fantasy characters, they're posable and it has their clothes kind of have like this weird kind of leathery, rubbery texture.
Uh-huh.
And for whatever reason, when I tried to fit one of them, it was Yuna from Final Fantasy X back into her original pose. Her arm on the joint just snapped right off. And I was just like,
No.
that is horrible. How did that happen and why? Like she's
Oh,
just been sitting there. Like I had, the kids aren't handling her, nothing else. I was just like, I don't understand. You know,
wow.
that's the part that's supposed to move. So, go figure. It was only one casualty. It's okay.
Yeah, I bought a an action figure set, and it was like a Lex Luthor and a Supergirl, and it's kind of old. It's a couple years, and it had been in the package, and I have to take them out. They have to be able to get some air and breathe and stuff. And because it had been in the package so long, or it came from the factory, one of the joints of the arms had like the paint glued itself, so he can't lower his arms. So he's always kind of like flexing, like forever. So frustrating. I had to buy another one because I wanted to be able to move his arm.
Yeah, I know. I can understand that. I know people who are listening who have never gotten into figure collecting are like, "What are these bozos talking about?" But for I can totally understand it. I mean, I'm also one of those people that has to take them out of the packaging too. Like
Hmm.
because I can't just keep it in the packaging forever. It kind of makes me sad. So when I move, I'm getting like a dedicated like glass figure stand with closable doors,
Oh yeah.
finally.
Oh
And
yeah.
set them up. So there, that's their dedicated space. I'll get, one of those cans of air and other dust materials every month. Keep it away from the sun. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I have a room in our house that is my nerd cave, and I have like a 6x6 shelving unit that's divided into squares, chock full of action figures, like probably like 700 or so, and I blacked out the windows because I don't want the sun to ruin them. And yeah, my wife is constantly saying, "So this is it, right? Like this is the last one." Like, yeah, until they release the next wave, or
Just get
so
her a figure of one of the characters she voiced, and it'll be fine.
she actually really wants. They just released these 6-inch Star Wars figures that are kind of they're kind of like the play arts, I think, because they come with exchangeable hands, and
Mhm.
she really wants a Boba Fett. She really likes Boba Fett.
Well, yeah, there's the bonus side. Just keep getting her ones that she likes that you'll both like together, and they're really kind of yours. And then it's like,
Yeah,
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 see?
right, right.
Like, don't tell her I said that.
For you, for me.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll have to check that out, and so will our listeners out there. Is there any events where they can stalk you at, and ask you for hugs and preferably not glomp at you? That way they don't like break an arm or anything?
Um, I am. I'm going to be doing a gaming convention in Wisconsin at the end of April. I can't remember what it's called right now. I think it's Chaoticon, but I'm not exactly sure. And I am in the process of trying to do more conventions uh, because I like meeting fans. I really enjoy it because, as I said, I like comics and I like meeting the people that work on them, and it kind of informs the way that I interact with them, how I interact with fans of my work, and so I want to interact more with them. So in the future, you should be seeing me at a few more cons. It's just getting in contact with them.
Awesome. Well, we'll look out for it, and hopefully you'll keep us up to date on your Facebook and all of your other social media websites.
Awesome.
And for the fans out there, this is their favorite part when we ask if you would be willing to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
Okay.
Basically, we ask if you'd be willing to do a radio bump for us.
Oh, sure.
Awesome. The trick of it, however, is that we do the takes live on air. So if you mess up, everybody hears it.
Okay.
No pressure. It's okay. Plenty of people mess up. You'll be fine. I promise. It's better
Are you
than
gonna
the.
you gonna send me a script?
I don't have a script though. Chris, if he's not too busy in his Pokemon fight, can send you it. Basically, we ask if you'd be willing to say, "Hello, my name is." You insert your name.
Uh
I
huh.
do this. You can say you're a voice actor. You can mention characters. It's up to you. And you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
I should have been writing that down.
I can repeat it.
Hi, my name. I'm. You're listening to
91.8
91.8
The
The Fan.
Fan. Yes.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready, take it away.
Hi, this is Andrew Love, Akio from Clanad. You're listening to 91.8 The Fan.
See, there you go. That wasn't that hard. Wasn't that hard? You're okay.
No, yeah. Whew, whew.
Okay. paper bag.
Okay.
It's fine.
All
It's just, yeah.
right.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the listeners out there? Any words of wisdom, dating advice, weather forecasts?
Um, just keep watching and keep supporting anime because it's awesome and it's something that we need more of.
I
And
agree with both of those statements so far.
yeah, yeah. Stay in school. If school suits you, I mean, like if you want to go to college, go to college. But if you want to be a voice actor, I would say check your local paper, or we have this thing called Green Sheet, which or not Green Sheet, Leisure Learning, and it's basically like a classes for adults, um, or I guess adolescents, where you can go like after school. And there's one here in town that you can go and do voice stuff. You can do commercial stuff. You can do voiceover stuff. And at the end of the class, you get a voice demo, which is a good way to send to companies to potentially audition for.
Is this region specific out of sheer curiosity?
Uh, the leisure learning?
Yeah, I've never actually heard of it, so I'm curious if it's based on, in your area or not.
I have no idea.
Well, we
I,
shall look it up.
yeah, I think that, I mean, that's just something I've, I don't know. I guess because I've lived in Houston most of my life, I've just accepted that was everywhere. It might just be in Houston, but there are all types of places you can look for if you want help on voice acting or just acting in general, because having a little bit of it training really does help you out. It's not necessary, but it really does help you out.
Definitely. And thank you for being with us today. I'm very happy that we got a chance to talk, and it seems like the listeners did as well.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And for anybody out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.